Have you ever watched a talk show spiral into chaos as fists started flying? When television's controlled environment shatters with real violence, viewers can't look away. Unlike scripted fights, these shocking moments expose raw human emotion at its most volatile. Join us as we count down 15 jaw-dropping incidents where guests crossed the line from verbal sparring to physical assault, forever changing the careers and reputations of some of TV's biggest personalities. Geraldo Rivera versus John Metzger and Roy Innis, 1988. In the annals of television violence, few incidents remain as infamous as the 1988 brawl on The Geraldo Rivera Show. What began as a heated discussion about racism quickly descended into one of the most shocking moments ever broadcast on daytime television. Geraldo, known for tackling controversial topics, invited white supremacist John Metzger of the White Aryan Resistance Youth, alongside civil rights activist Roy Innis of the Congress of Racial Equality. The tension was palpable from the start, with audience members representing both sides of the ideological divide. The breaking point came when Metzger callously referred to Innis as an Uncle Tom. Innis, visibly incensed, rose from his seat and grabbed Metzger by the throat with both hands. Chaos erupted instantly as supporters from both sides flooded the stage. Chairs began flying through the air, and in the middle of it all stood Geraldo, desperately trying to restore order. A chair struck Rivera directly in the face, breaking his nose. Blood streaming down his face, he continued fighting, even throwing punches at one of Metzger's supporters before security finally separated the combatants. Despite his injury, Rivera finished taping the episode with a bloodied, bandaged nose, later requiring reconstructive surgery. Roy Innis versus Al Sharpton, 1988. The same year as the Geraldo incident, Roy Innis found himself in another physical altercation, this time with Reverend Al Sharpton during a taping of The Morton Downey Jr. Show at Harlem's historic Apollo Theater. With more than 1,000 people in attendance, the debate about leadership in the Black community quickly turned hostile. During a heated exchange about the controversial Tawana Brawley case, which Sharpton had championed and Innis had investigated and dismissed, tensions escalated dramatically. According to witnesses, Innis stood up, towering over Sharpton, and demanded to be allowed to speak. As Sharpton began to rise, Innis forcefully shoved him, sending the Reverend tumbling backward in his chair and onto the floor. "He tried to bogart me in the middle of my statement," Innis later told the Washington Post. "I said no dice. I don't allow that, and I would not be intimidated." Sharpton, however, maintained he never threatened Innis, claiming the core leader was the aggressor. The shocking moment was captured on camera, with Morton Downey Jr. and several bodyguards jumping between the two men. Despite the physical confrontation, both civil rights figures continued the one-hour interview, with producer Bill Boggs noting how remarkably they maintained the discussion despite its very heated tone. Jim Everett versus Jim Rome, 1994. When NFL quarterback Jim Everett appeared on ESPN2's Talk 2 with host Jim Rome in 1994, viewers witnessed one of sports television's most explosive confrontations. Rome had repeatedly taunted Everett by calling him Chris, referring to female tennis player Chris Evert, to question his toughness. After Rome continued the insult during their face-to-face interview, Everett warned him, "If you call me Chris Evert one more time, we better take a break." When Rome defiantly repeated the name, Everett immediately flipped the table between them and shoved Rome to the ground, lunging across to confront him before crew members intervened. The incident became an instant viral sensation before the term existed, replayed countless times on sports shows. It highlighted the dangerous line between provocative sports commentary and personal disrespect, showing how quickly studio banter could turn physical when an athlete's masculinity was challenged. The clip remains one of sports television's most shocking moments, easily found on YouTube with millions of views. Desmond Leslie versus Bernard Levin, 1963. What is widely considered the first unscripted punch on live television occurred in 1963, when former World War II Spitfire pilot Desmond Leslie attacked British talk show host Bernard Levin on the live broadcast of the show That Was the Week That Was. The incident stemmed from Leslie's anger over Levin's unflattering review of a stage performance by Leslie's wife, actress Agnes Burnell. Levin had criticized her show, Savagery and Delight, Though, ironically, the poor performance was partly due to Leslie himself, who was working as the sound engineer and had forgotten to connect the stage speakers. During the live broadcast, Leslie, who was in the audience and not a scheduled guest, stormed onto the stage and delivered a flurry of punches to Levin's face. Unlike modern broadcasts with built-in delays, the analog era meant viewers saw the entire assault unfold in real time with no possibility for producers to cut away. Bill Maher versus 9/11 conspiracy theorists, 2007. In a rare case of a host taking physical action against audience members, Bill Maher personally entered the crowd to eject disruptive 9/11 conspiracy theorists during a live broadcast of his HBO show, Real Time with Bill Maher. The incident began when several audience members repeatedly interrupted the show with shouts about 9/11 being an inside job. Maher, visibly irritated, initially tried to continue with the program, but the disruptions persisted. Finally, the host's patience snapped. In an unprecedented move, Maher left the stage and personally entered the audience section. Security guards followed as he confronted the hecklers face to face. "Out! Out!" Maher shouted as he physically helped security remove the protesters from the studio. Upon returning to the stage, Maher jokingly complained about his staff, saying, "Where's the security in this building? They're out getting a hot dog." The moment revealed a rarely seen side of Maher, known for his intellectual approach to controversy rather than physical confrontation. Morton Downey Jr. vs. Kelly Everts, 1980s. The Morton Downey Jr. show became infamous for its host's confrontational style, but few incidents crossed the line like his treatment of Kelly Everts, a self-proclaimed stripper for God. This physical altercation ultimately led to a massive $40 million lawsuit against the controversial host. During the segment, Downey repeatedly called Everts demeaning names and, at different points, pushed her with his pelvis and forcibly removed her microphone. The studio audience cheered wildly as Everts endured this humiliating treatment, creating a disturbing spectacle of public degradation. Everts later sued Downey for $40 million, alleging he had physically assaulted and humiliated her on national television. The exact resolution of the lawsuit remains unclear, but Downey's show would be canceled just 2 years after its premiere, partly due to controversies like this one. Steve Wilkos versus guest with Metal Bowl, 2000s. In one particularly shocking incident, Wilkos was caught in the crossfire when a guest threw a metal bowl that struck him directly in the head. The impact knocked Wilkos to the floor and temporarily blinded him, causing a moment of genuine concern among the production crew. The incident was so serious that producers later nailed the bowl to the table to prevent similar projectiles from being used as weapons in future episodes. What makes this assault particularly notable is that Wilkos, unlike many talk show hosts, had extensive experience with violent confrontations from his background in law enforcement and security. Yet even he was unprepared for the sudden, unprovoked attack, highlighting the unpredictable nature of putting volatile guests on live television. Jerry Springer's multiple incidents, 1990s. While not involving direct attacks on Jerry Springer himself, the Jerry Springer Show became synonymous with on-stage brawls that often endangered everyone involved, including the host. The show's producers even released uncensored DVDs marketed as Too Hot for TV, containing explicit violence that had been edited out of broadcasts to meet FCC standards. Security guards became as much a part of the show's identity as Springer himself, with the host often having to retreat to safety as chairs flew and punches were thrown. The show maintained the pretense of discouraging violence, with Springer's famous "take care of yourself and each other" sign-off contrasting sharply with the mayhem his show encouraged. Behind the scenes, rumors circulated about fight quotas and guests being told who to punch, suggesting that much of the violence was orchestrated for ratings. Nonetheless, the genuine injuries sustained by guests proved that while the setups might have been planned, the violence was often all too real. Lloyd Kaufman versus Morton Downey Jr., 1980s. Cult filmmaker Lloyd Kaufman, creator of The Toxic Avenger, reportedly dislocated his shoulder after being dragged off stage by security guards on The Morton Downey Jr. Show. The altercation began when Kaufman and Downey engaged in a heated verbal exchange that quickly escalated beyond the typical talk show debate. As Kaufman attempted to make his points, Downey became increasingly agitated, eventually ordering security to remove him from the stage. What followed was a violent ejection that was captured during a commercial break, with Downey seen raging around the set asking which producer had invited Kaufman on the show. The physical assault was so impactful that Kaufman later spoofed the incident in his movie Terror Firmer, turning a painful experience into satirical commentary on the toxic nature of confrontational television. The incident highlighted how talk show hosts could weaponize their security teams against guests who challenged them. Jeremy Kyle's multiple incidents, 2010s. British talk show host Jeremy Kyle was regularly attacked by guests on his controversial program, with some using items like walking sticks and envelopes as weapons. The confrontations became so frequent that Kyle once ended up storming off his own set after a particularly hostile encounter. The Jeremy Kyle Show followed the American trash TV format, but with distinctly British sensibilities, focusing on family disputes, paternity tests, and accusations of infidelity. Kyle's confrontational interviewing style often provoked guests to lash out physically, creating a hostile environment that critics described as human bear-baiting. The show's tendency toward violence ultimately contributed to its downfall. In 2019, following the suicide of a guest who had failed one of the show's lie detector tests, the program was permanently canceled, with investigations revealing the toxic behind-the-scenes culture that had enabled years of on-screen assaults. Rush Limbaugh versus ACT UP protesters, 1990. While guest hosting The Pat Sajak Show in 1990, conservative commentator Rush Limbaugh faced an angry confrontation from abortion rights supporters and ACTUP activists in the audience. What began as a discussion about abortion rights and Idaho's controversial abortion bill quickly escalated into a chaotic scene. Limbaugh was verbally attacked by multiple audience members, some wearing shirts for gay activist group ACT UP, with at least one calling him a murderer. The disruption became so intense that the audience had to be cleared to finish taping the final segment of the program. Though not involving direct physical violence against Limbaugh, the incident represented one of the most hostile audience rebellions in talk show history, with the potential for physical assault causing producers to take the drastic step of removing the entire studio audience. Ron Paul versus Morton Downey Jr., 1987. During his 1987 presidential campaign, Libertarian candidate Ron Paul appeared on The Morton Downey Jr. Show and experienced the host's notorious confrontational style firsthand. When Downey began yelling in Paul's face, the typically composed politician snapped, lashing out at both the host and the audience. The incident revealed how even the most controlled political figures could be provoked to aggression by Downey's deliberate antagonism. Paul, visibly uncomfortable with the show's format, finally reached his breaking point when Downey invaded his personal space, creating a tense moment that could have easily escalated into physical violence. While not resulting in actual punches being thrown, the confrontation demonstrated how the increasingly combative nature of talk television was creating an environment where even presidential candidates could be goaded into losing their composure on camera. Bill O'Reilly versus Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar, 2010. While no physical violence occurred, this explosive confrontation on The View in 2010 demonstrated how quickly television discussions could escalate toward potential violence. When Bill O'Reilly repeatedly stated that Muslims killed us on 9/11 during a discussion about the proposed Islamic Community Center near Ground Zero, co-hosts Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar reached their breaking point. After unsuccessfully trying to get O'Reilly to clarify that extremists, not all Muslims, were responsible for the attacks, Goldberg and Behar walked off their own set in protest. The unprecedented move left remaining host Barbara Walters visibly rattled as she addressed the audience saying, "You have just seen what should not happen." The incident highlighted the intensity of post-9/11 political discourse and how discussions about religion and terrorism could quickly become so heated that even professional broadcasters abandoned their posts rather than continue the conversation. Though they eventually returned to the stage after O'Reilly moderated his language, the confrontation became a defining moment for The View and demonstrated how close verbal conflicts on live television can come to physical altercations when emotions run high. Ricky Lake Show couch tipping incident, 1990s. The Ricky Lake Show typically presented a tamer version of the trash TV format, but occasionally erupted into violence that rivaled its more confrontational competitors. In one infamous incident, a confrontation between two female guests escalated when one woman hit the other and tipped over the couch they were sitting on. The camera captured the perfect reaction shot of a male guest seated next to them, his face frozen in horror as he realized he was about to be taken down with the furniture. The moment provided an unintentionally comic element to what was otherwise a disturbing display of on-air violence. What we've seen through these 15 shocking incidents is that the line between entertainment and assault is dangerously thin on live television. From broken noses to flying chairs, these moments reveal the volatile unpredictability of human emotion under the hot studio lights. Which confrontation surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on more explosive content that exposes television's most jaw-dropping moments of unscripted chaos.